You are listening to Season 2 of the Humans of AI Stories Not Stats podcast, where Devi Parikh and Dhruv Batra talk to AI researchers to try and understand who they are as people, what their life is like, what they think about, what they're insecure about, and what they get really excited about. Questions that reveal the stories of their day to day lives. In this episode, Dhruv talks with Yejin Choi, who is the Brett Helsel Associate Professor of Computer Science at the University of Washington and also a Senior Research Manager at AI2. Yejin talks about where she comes from, living life like in a game environment, thinking in vector spaces, finding her true self, and lots more. For more information about the podcast and the episodes, you can log on to www.humanstories.ai. And with that, let's get right into the conversation.
Okay, Yejin Choi, welcome to Humans of AI. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I have a sequence of questions for you. Some are lightweight and may not require much thought. Others may require a bit more consideration, in which case feel free to pause, take your time to think. If you want to skip a question, we can do that. But when in doubt, if you can err on the side of being open, transparent, vulnerable, we would appreciate it. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. So what were you doing right before this call?
Oh, the usual stuff, meetings and coffee, and some more meetings and some more coffee. Sorry.
There's a lot of coffee.
Yeah, I'm a bit of an owl and I have a hard time in the morning.
What's your daily routine like?
Meetings and coffee. And some more work in the evening.
Meetings and coffee. I sense a theme already.
Sometimes cocktail in the evening.
What's the favorite part of your day? The coffee or the cocktails?
No, some of the meetings are super fun. I don't like. I'm a little bit picky about meetings, but some research meetings with my students and postdocs can be quite fun. So that's the better part of the day.
And what's the least favorite part of your day?
Being late for deadlines constantly. I don't know. And then, I'm not very good at many things, like especially administrative jobs. So, and then, like we have to do some of that, and I hate doing it. Like filling in some like complex spreadsheet for some reason.
Oh, spreadsheets. With
I mean, it's not complex, but I was just filling in, like somebody sent me some information to fill in. And one of the questionnaire was asking, are you a civil servant? I don't know, like I was Googling, like, am I, if I'm working for a public university? I think it's not the case, but
oh, really?
I'm not working for, apparently in US, states are states, and then I'm not really working for the federal government. So assuming the information at Google is correct, who knows what's out there, but
interesting.
I mean, Stack Overflow. I should
Stack Overflow.
Yes, maybe it's not the best source of information, but yeah. Probably more trustworthy than Reddit. Who knows?
I find this idea hilarious that the top minds of the world are sitting there on Stack Overflow trying to figure out, are we civil servants?
I don't know. You have no idea how much I don't know.
Okay. Do you set an alarm in the morning?
Oh, yeah, many. Actually, if you look at my phone, there's like alarm set up every 10, 15 minutes because, I'm going to kill some of them for sure. So I need backup alarms.
How many are these?
I have already preset alarms, so many of them. So depending on when the morning meeting starts, I'm going to probably activate like 7, 8 of them in a row.
Oh,
to be honest, I never know what's going to happen the next morning. So
I see. The entropy of your mornings appears to be very high.
Yeah, I agree. I admit. That's probably true. I mean, I feel like the rest of the day entropy is also high, but the morning probably is not the best time.
I see.
Mm.
Um, Besides the mornings, are you generally a planner, or do you operate more on gut feeling? Do you end up going with the flow?
The second, probably. I mean, I try to have a to-do list, which I pay attention to. But I mean, if there's a deadline, then I will try to behave. But yeah, I don't know, like how some people. I think it's like you also be very good at time management by any chance, but I'm not a role model for that. Or rather, let's just say there are hopes for people who are not very good at time management.
Yeah, that's the positive spin on it. Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
Do you struggle with procrastination?
Oh yeah. Apparently, there's some reason behind that. Like, I noticed that especially if I try to do something well, it's even less likely that I will really get started. So I found that once I get started, it's easier to keep going. But sometimes I have this like imagery of the perfect article that I want to write that I will never get started because it's daunting. And somehow I feel like I don't have enough good idea yet. I have to keep thinking.
Yeah, I know what you mean, where the picture in your mind is so good that there's no way you can get started towards it.
It's overwhelming because I'm gonna disappoint myself.
Yeah. Are you competitive, Yejin?
Probably some, and probably I gave up on. I mean, I don't really think much of myself on one hand, and then on the other hand, I want to do as good as maybe. I mean, I don't want to look like I don't deserve the position that I have. So it's like, oh, I have to at least to meet some particular standard, right? But maybe. I mean, I want to do well. I'll admit that. But no, I'm not, it's like, I'm not going to try to win chess game and, like random things. I mostly, I don't care. So.
You don't end up getting drawn into a competition about something that you started out not caring about. You are deliberate about competition.
No, I think I just genuinely don't care about a lot of things in life. So I don't mind if other people win so that, it's like, okay, at least they will feel good, which is good for me. So.
Is there a rejection or a failure that hurt particularly bad?
Oh yeah, when in the past more so because when I was getting studied back in Stony Brook, almost all my grants got rejected, and so that was like so sad. I also never got NSF career grant. Or the resubmitted version of them got accepted with high rate, but couldn't they just give it to me? I mean, I didn't even. Probably I shouldn't complain too much in public, but maybe just in case for people who who feel heartbroken as much as I was back then. In retrospect, probably I should have not felt as badly because who cares? It seemed like one could get tenured anyway, and life goes on. But back then it felt like, I don't belong here because everyone else gets one. And it was a little bit frustrating that when I resubmit, I mean, there was like very little gap between the notification date and then the next small submission deadline. So I could barely revise that very much. And yet it did get accepted right away. So I was scratching my head like, so that says something about the randomness of reviewers too.
Yeah, it's just the thing we experience with paper submissions at a larger scale, right? Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I know how sort of personal that can be. A friend of mine from grad school, who I won't name, he is a faculty member somewhere, and when he got his, I believe, maybe I'm mixing up this story, but he had congratulated his advisor on the advisor receiving the career award. And I think the statement from the advisor was, every scientist worth their salt has a career award. It is not something that we celebrate. And that was just like soul crushing, because like, all right, where did we just move this bar? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody seemed like they were getting one, especially back then. I think these days it's even more cutthroat. So I hope people don't feel bad about not getting one, because there are more people in AI competing for it. So
On to a flip question. Is there
Yeah.
an achievement or a success that felt particularly good?
I feel like I'm still working on it, so research-wise, I mean, I've been taking more adventures. About the time I was getting tenured at UW, I started also taking bigger risk at the same time, thinking that, well, we all live once, so why don't I just and UW can tenure me or not. So I'm glad that I took the risk with like pursuing common sense models, for example. I don't know, how far this can go, but the progress so far still has been a lot more than I could have imagined, even just a few years ago. So I feel excited about it, but still it's a little early to say, but I feel really good about students being successful, despite the fact that they took me as their advisor. Yeah. A bit adversarial, right? But
yeah,
they managed to do well. So, phew.
I think you're being a bit too harsh on yourself. I don't think it's despite. I think it may I'm certain you've contributed positively.
Yeah. I hope so. But who knows?
What is one thing you are worse at than people around you?
Oh, there are quite a few, but I got used to it at this point. I mean, it seems that somebody is better than something compared to me always.
But are they around you?
Yeah. Yeah. Even my students, sometimes they can write the paragraph that, I'm thinking that, oh, this is better than what I could have written, or, they can certainly write code much better than I do. I mean, back in the days, I wasn't so bad, but I think it's all gone by now. Especially with the GPUs, and I don't know how to. But anyway, no, but I mean, I'm probably better in some things, but I think it's okay though. No.
Yeah.
Not to be perfect, everything. And I mean, in some ways, I feel like I'm probably D- if I were to get a grade. Like I joined these outdoor activity groups in Seattle, and there I felt like, they're gonna just give me F. Compared to all the other fit people, it's like, oh, that was hard.
Okay. That D- that you're giving yourself, what is that on?
Oh.
Just generically at life? I don't think so.
I mean, sometimes people talk about political, stuff. And I mean, I also have some of my own opinion, but, sometimes they get, Twitter, sometimes they get into this like war of arguments, and that's just beyond me at some point. Some people say, also, I don't know how some people are able to be constantly on social media and, sharing very insightful remarks about all the recent papers and all. And every year I'm thinking, I should have a more presence in Twitter. Every new year I'm thinking, okay, I should do that. And then, I don't know, it's just not me. The only thing I seem to be doing is like retweet with no comment. I should work on it though. Maybe next year.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't know if the world really, I think you may be contributing to the world through your expertise well enough. Like, I don't think the world needs more thought leaders, quote unquote, on Twitter.
Yeah, it does seem like the world doesn't mind if I'm good at a particular narrow thing and not necessarily excel in everything. And other people can do that. It's okay.
What would you say is your single biggest strength?
Oh, probably looking back and thinking about, how I came this far. Persistency matters, grit. And combined with that, I think I tend to take risk more so than others, I suspect. I may be wrong, who knows, but I suspect that may be true. I mean, now that talking to you, it reminds me of a conversation I had with someone back in Korea. He said that I seem to make very random choice with my life by the typical, social norms and standard, because it's almost as if I'm living in this game environment and, I have some lives to spare. Someone actually made me that comment about my important career decisions.
Fascinating. I like that that metaphor that you act as if you have lives to spare. Interesting.
Yeah. I was quite surprised to hear that, but I think I believe he had a good point there that I didn't realize.
And do you think you act as if you have lives to spare?
No, I don't want. I'm not going to do anything dangerous. As far as literally, no, because I don't want to even go down the ski slope very fast. I'm like mostly trying really hard to slow down as much as possible so that I have my neck attached. That said, career. I mean, maybe there's a little bit more context that I'm not sharing, which is that long time ago, I was told that grad school is not for me, and women shouldn't study too much. And I already went to university that's too good. Therefore, should find a husband. Optionally, I can also find a job, but more importantly, so the quote unquote random decision that I made was to I applied to Microsoft as a software engineer long time ago. That's like million years ago when Google or Facebook were not in the picture yet. So Google may have existed. I think Google was at the young phase.
Google started in 98. You're not that old.
Yeah. Google was there, but it was not as well known as Microsoft back then.
True.
And so, sitting in Korea, I thought, working in US there, it's like, that would be pretty awesome. So I applied and somehow I got the job. And then I decided to accept the offer. And there was a lot of naysayers about that it sounds like a mistake, especially would I be qualified to get married as a result afterwards? Like, it was interesting time. And some people told me that it's actually better to just go to grad school instead. But somehow I got more excited about being a software engineer because I think it's in part because I had no reason to believe that grad school was a good idea for me. And I thought I will be a hacker. That was my dream back then. So.
Fancy. How do you make difficult decisions? Are there lines of thinking or mental frameworks that you find yourself using? Like, how did you choose grad school over the software profession, where do you work now, or any other difficult decision that you may have made?
I probably just go by gut feeling, what I feel more excited about, because I have to live with that decision, and I better be at least feeling excited about it, as opposed to, I think one thing I am not very good at doing is doing it because others think it's a good idea, and I should do it because others will think highly of me as a result when I don't enjoy doing it. I just can't. So mostly, I just go with what I feel like more. Just follow my heart.
And do you end up struggling with regret, or is that not generally how you find yourself thinking?
I very rarely ever regret with my decision. I mean, I regret that I didn't work harder, perhaps more vaguely, but not with a particular life decision. Because I feel like, I mean, if it was a silly thing that I did in the past, probably that was just the best I had anyway. I mean, maybe I needed to try something and see it for myself to realize that it was a bad idea. Like, why did I do minor in operation research back in Cornell when everybody warned that it's too much of a math, and I had to, they required prerequisites. So we were required to take PhD level math and, statistics classes. And they assumed that I took their undergrad level classes, which I didn't. I mean, hadn't had a chance to take such classes back in my university when I was CE major, not CS. So all the more I didn't have access to that kind of classes. So I was studying their undergrad textbook simultaneously. Mostly during the lecture, I have no idea what the professor just said. And then I'm going back to the chapters that include such words, like some theorem that everyone knows about that I don't. So I'm reading that and then working on their homework and exam and everything. And also, I really didn't want to get help. So I really preferred that I solve everything on my own. So it was hard. But with more time, it can be done. It's just that, I probably sacrificed something else in exchange, like more time for research. Well, less time for research. But I feel like it was important for me back then. So
interesting. Do you have an internal monologue? Do you find yourself talking to yourself in your head?
Oh, I am very sure. I mean, yes and no. I'm not in natural language. I think in vectors. If I say this, some people really feel like, what? You cannot say that. Some colleagues told me that, no, you're thinking in logical symbols, not neural vectors.
I like how other people can tell you what is going on in your brain. That's interesting.
Well, but I'm pretty sure that's not, I'm pretty sure, because for the following reason, you must have this experience as well. Sometimes, you read a paper, student prepared, and then you don't like something somewhere, but you know that you want to revise it, or you know how to revise it, but don't you sometimes struggle a little bit to explain like what's wrong with that exactly? Because I have that problem often, especially when it's very subjective, judgmental thing that maybe a little bit hard to prove what's wrong with that versus this way of saying the same thing. So for those cases, I feel like I have a feeling or judgments first, intuition first, and then I have to explain it in natural language. And sometimes I struggle quite a bit to articulate what I have in mind.
And the intuition, so you find that it's not natural language, but is it visual then? Do you find yourself thinking in diagrams, search trees, graphs, or is it more abstract?
Search trees. I'm very sure that I'm doing like A star search with the proof of guarantees with large beam size. Who knows?
Yeah. Or is it more abstract than that? it's model free. There's a decision that you become aware of, and then you're struggling for the path for how do you got there.
Probably it's fairly abstract.
Hmm.
I don't know if I visualize at least what I'm thinking. But if I'm writing like scribbling my idea on a note for the purpose of sharing with someone else, then I might then try to visualize it a bit better.
And are you good at maps and rotating maps and 3D coordinate systems in your head?
Oh, may not be worse than the average. I mean, there were some tests like that when I was a child, and I think I was better on the better side. But I have no reason to believe that I'm particularly exceptional at that. But I was once told by high school teacher that maybe I could really consider being an artist for sculpture, because so that requires a bit of imaginary 3D model in your head, because you need to remove the part that doesn't belong there.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the heart for it, so didn't develop that aspect of a brain. So probably at this time, maybe it's all gone. Who knows?
What do you tend to think about when you're not actively trying to think about something? What goes on in the back burner to the extent that you're aware?
Random things. And I mean, sometimes I, chew on what someone else has told me. I'm wondering, what's that supposed to mean? There are days when I'm just chewing on the past, but that's not the pleasurable daydreaming that I prefer to do. So I think I like daydreaming about some weird, future AI, or, how to get there, or how we might try something entirely different and crazy. And I also like sometimes daydreaming about this, parallel universe based on quantum physics. Supposedly we're in a simulation environment and I might be a wave. I find all that very entertaining.
You are a particle or a giant particle that pops in and out of existence due to the fields that exist.
Yeah, I feel very wave in that regard.
Yeah. How do you recharge or take a break?
I like sleeping if I can. I'm not very good sleeper though, but I think there's nothing like that. And then a bit of exercise also helps. But I guess I am kind of stuck to my computer otherwise, so I'm a little bit boring. Back in the days, I also used to like doing scuba diving and other stuff, but the water here is a bit too cold. I like warmer water better. So.
And do you find that you have dedicated slots for working out, and you have fixed times for your sleeping? Or
that's where my time management really isn't very good. Some people are very good at allocating time in advance. Usually I have no idea how much time I need for completing a particular task. It's in part because I think some people decided that I'm going to spend 2 hours on this paper and then really move on after 2 hours is done. Whereas if I feel like to keep working on it, then that's what I'll do next. So.
Yeah. I know how that feels. Yeah.
And oftentimes I probably work a bit too much in the evening and over the weekends. This is not a good thing to do. I know, but.
Are you happy with the number of close friends you have?
Yeah, but I don't have very many close friends. But I'm not unhappy about the fact that I don't have many close friends. I feel like I get a lot of meaningful social interactions just from my work. And students are very endearing and they kind of feel like my friends as well. So maybe that's why.
Yeah, I know what you mean. What are you insecure about?
Oh, I'm very good at feeling insecure about.
That's one of your. That's one of your
that's my
strengths.
strength. Yeah. I mean, there are many sources of feeling that way. I mean, part of it, I think, is that at the end of the day, I still belong to minority. So there's always constant reminder about that from the society, believe it or not. So, which, I can most of the time choose to ignore. And on a worst days, it might actually haunt me back that I don't belong, maybe. Yeah.
That's odd.
Yeah, but maybe there's some positive side to it, I realize, which is that I can understand that better when students go through it, I think. And oftentimes I just share that with the students even before they say anything about it, and almost always then I realize, oh, they were struggling with a similar concern, but they just didn't want to bring it up because they fear that they may get caught, that they're imposters. So,
do you think you're average, above average, or below average? And you can swap that for median, above median, below median, happy compared to the people around you?
Oh, I think I'm a pretty happy person on average. I mean, I can be sad too, but I think usually I'm in a good mood. Probably better, above the average for computer scientist.
Yeah.
I think the secret to that is, though, maybe this is not the best way of, but I kind of feel like I had a much more depressing time earlier in my life. So compared to that, everything looks like constant improvement. So,
well, I'm glad things are better, and I'm glad you're happy.
Yeah.
What is something surprising about you? Something that the rest of us who know you from perhaps a professional context may not guess?
Oh yeah, I was very quiet and shy, and I'm actually very much an introvert. And when I was doing PhD, I was like a furniture in the room. You may or may not notice that I'm there. And then this new job requires me to speak quite a bit, so I became better at it. And in some sense, I feel like I discovered the true me in me that was there, but somehow it was culturally suppressed beforehand. But when I mentioned this, especially students get very surprised, especially the shy ones get surprised that really.
What is one thing about the world that surprises you?
Time and again, it seems that human intelligence is weird. Half of the country believe that vaccine or COVID itself is questionable. And I mean,
half may be a bit high of the figure, though, right? Like it's a surprisingly large percentage that.
Yeah. I'm exaggerating. Yeah. But what I meant to say is that I see that there are a lot of cognitive dissonance in people that surprise me. And even for, let's just say, diversity, support of diversity, everybody proclaims that they support. But then their acts may or may not be in line with that. They might be perfectly be okay to say certain things that actually have an implication that reveal that they actually believe otherwise. But even when somebody pointed that out, they may not. It may be more important for them to argue back that there's nothing wrong with what they said, or so I found that a lot of those cases quite interesting. That people could have like two different beliefs simultaneously in their mind.
Yeah, cognitive dissonance, and Kevin Simler has a book called The Elephant in the Brain, which is about the ways in which we not only put on a mask for external entities, but also internally. There are beliefs that you hide from yourselves, and it's because it gives your brain an advantage at not consciously being aware that it's holding conflicting beliefs in it.
Oh yeah, there's also this book about self-deception by Robert Trevor, or I cannot read somewhere in there, but The Folly of Fools. That's the title.
What do you strongly suspect but have no proof of?
I love this question. I think there's several, but maybe one of them. So, like, this is completely subjective and speculative, and ungrounded thoughts. But I think language is really important for artificial intelligence and common sense modeling as well, especially if we want to have a scale coverage of concepts and the ability to reason about compositional concepts. It's easy to believe that, oh no, logical forms, we can always define some constants and predicates and compose over them. But wait a minute, I mean, you can try to reconstruct natural language unnecessarily through logical forms, and nobody ever succeeded in doing so beyond the very confined toy problems. And through natural language, because humans learn so much through language, it's true that we also learn from interactions and other modalities, but we also learn much faster and much more efficiently through languages. When I advocate language, I'm not saying that language is the only modality that we should worry about. It's just that integration of that will be really, really important. And perhaps logic, the conventional form of logic, cannot really succeed in there. And we should really integrate the full scope of language directly into AI models.
I like how passionate you got suddenly on that subject, where it's
I get excited when this is a hard position to take, though, because it's like, what? Logic is correct and language is kind of dirty. It's a variable and it's ambiguous. And how do you possibly? But really, that's how humans learn, through this ambiguous vehicle of communication. And relevant to this question, we discussed earlier how Google may or may not have correct knowledge out there, but still, that's really the best way for us to acquire knowledge, question and answer knowledge. We cannot really communicate through logical forms. In order to reach that sort of scale and coverage of concepts, which is in the infinite space. So,
but to be fair to the other side, we cannot communicate through logical forms. Perhaps is just a deficiency that must be overcome eventually.
We'll see. Yeah, I don't know. Language is fascinating intellectual objects that we have.
Yeah.
Are we actually able to create some sort of annotated synthetic, semantic, or logical parse output that can match the original meaning space of a language, and I'm skeptical. But on the other hand, like somehow really better grounding that in the physical world through interaction. Now that's also very, 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 very important. I'm very excited about that direction. You're doing a lot of that. Yeah.
What is something you've changed your mind about?
Oh, so this is one. I used to be in love with like Bayesian probabilistic graphical models, and I really considered doing PhD for logic AI as well in early phase in my career. And I was proving lots of logical statements, and some of these homeworks required like several pages of proofs for something that I already know the conclusion of, but you have to write down all the induction.
Yeah, I went through that phase as well in my PhD, where it was, Daphne Coller's book and Carlos Kestrin and Ben Tasker's and Thorsten Joachim's work. It was just so beautiful. How could you not fall in love with that work?
Yeah,
and then
it's weird what happened in the field.
You meet the hard reality of computer vision and NLP problems, and you realize it doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
What is a bad habit you're working on overcoming?
Oh, I probably have many. Better time management would be a good start.
I don't know if that's a bad habit though. Like you may be deriving value from the lack of structure.
Yeah, actually, it may be a good thing for me that I just have a particular kinds of attention span. I mean, I work hard. It's just that I'm not able to box myself into predefined schedule very well. But it may, who knows, it may be important in doing particular kind of research or I don't know. Or it might be just the way it is with my limited brain. I don't know how some people just mechanically like really follow their timetable. Like, wow, I cannot do that. I'm a human, with the feelings. I don't want to change what I'm working on right now. This is what I enjoy doing right now. Don't take it away.
How do you imagine your retirement? How do you imagine?
Did you say retirement?
Yeah. How do you imagine your retirement?
Oh, I don't want to. I don't want to. But if I do, then I want to have a serious career elsewhere. I don't know what, but I think I must be a bit of a workaholic.
Yeah, I'm getting that vibe. You want a serious career in your retirement.
Yeah.
All right. So that just begs the question, how about the retirement from that? How do you imagine that?
I want to upload myself to
this is really there's an infinite horizon. All right. I think I got the answer to that question.
Move to Mars.
Let's make a falsifiable prediction. When do you think our corner of the world will open up post-COVID back to what may be a new normal?
I thought in the fall, no? At least the plan is, assuming the new variants don't come out too aggressively and vaccine cannot catch up, but...
Makes sense. Yeah, I'm polling everybody, trying to see what their predictions are. We'll see when the time comes.
Fall. Yeah.
On to perhaps a significantly longer time horizon. Do you think there's a point to life and our existence?
Yes and no. I want to believe that mine has one, but
other people.
it's a personal thing, so they have to find their purpose of life and work toward that. So that's their puzzle to solve, not mine. But yeah, for me, yeah, for sure. I think it helps to have a meaning of life. I think there's a book about that by, it's a very thin book written by, I think, a doctor who was in this Nazi camp. The book might be, the title might be The Meaning of Life. It's a very famous book, and I'm very bad at remembering names and titles, though. And yeah, the book talks about how people in that camp were able to survive such hard situations because of the fact some had meaning of life in their head, like, you know, going back to their family or worrying about their family members or somewhere else. It just doesn't allow that, like having hope or concern in their mind doesn't let them die. Like they're still trying to survive through all that inhumane, insane, difficult physical situations. Whereas once people lose hope, then they just don't care, and they might really not care at all to live. I thought it's interesting.
And where do you find meaning?
I hope that I could make some contribution toward improving equity and diversity in the field. And it's in part coming from generating the next generation of students who are more aware of it, but also who themselves are diverse, and then at the same time reach success in the social hierarchy, because they themselves need to be the role models for the following generation. And it takes a lot of effort, but one at a time, I suppose. So I find a lot of meaning in it, but I realize that there are different ways of going about it. And I think I'm the most excited about actually raising strong students of that sort who can reach far in their career.
On to perhaps an even more philosophical point.
Yeah.
Pineapple topping on pizza. Yes or
I
no?
love it. I really like, this is weird. Why is this even like a question to ask? Like, how can someone not like it? It's beyond me. Do you like it?
I'm okay with it, but I find
Okay.
my palate is not very refined, and I find that the worst thing that I can taste and the best thing I can taste do not appear to have as high a dynamic range as other people do. So I'm okay with a lot of things, but I am neither sad at a meal or ecstatic at a meal. I'm fine at most meals. So I'm fine with pineapple on pizza because I'm fine with a lot of things. What are some traits common to some of the best collaborators or colleagues that you worked with?
I like, you know, it's an interesting question. Even after working in the field for more than, how long did I work? I couldn't say decade, but less than a decade, but for a long time. The new collaborators that I work with, there's something yet like new that I discover, you know, as their unique strength, which makes me think the world is really diverse. It's like filled with really diverse set of people. And I love having that sort of experience with the people who somehow teach me something new, either just by the knowledge that they have or by their way of collaborating with other people or organizing things. So I love doing some experiments in the way that I run research group meetings. And so I like those moments when I learn something different, which also means that I like people who can work with other diverse set of people collegially, and with a more open mind. And then second, people who can be themselves and express themselves, or somehow find a way to take initiative to make unique contributions, as opposed to being very, very passive. And sometimes some collaborators can be like that, but I like people who try to add a unique new angle in some way, so that I learn as well.
And do you think you can spot these traits early?
I don't know, but I very rarely had any problem with collaborators. It might be that somehow there's some self-selection bias around the people around me, but yeah, I never needed to actually be careful selecting that very much.
Describe something that made you smile this week.
I was just coming off from NACL, and so my student Peter giving really, really good talk. He was filling in for the first author, Shiming, who unfortunately got a bit too sick to present it herself. But so Peter had to step in really last minute, and he did really well. So I was just very proud for both of them. Yeah,
that's really nice. I know that feeling, and it's just such a nice thing about the word.
Yeah.
Why did you agree to do this interview with me?
Yeah, I only last night I realized that what I said yes to. I only said yes because I thought this was like just maybe some random research interview, and since you asked, and I like you, and I was sorry that I missed your email. I mean, it was sitting in the gosh, spam box. Like I never really checked that, so I was just like automatically saying yes, not knowing what I was saying yes to. But yeah, this is fun. You guys are creative to come up with this idea.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Like this is Devi's idea of a social gathering. I mean, this is my idea as well, but it's coming much more strongly from her, where she just hates small talk. She hates it with a passion that she likes this sort of an organized setup where there are structured questions, and I appreciate the structure as well.
Me too. Actually, to be honest, I don't understand this small talk culture in this country. We have to struggle through that. Especially, I cannot tolerate when people talk about weather. Really? Just tell me about something more substantial.
Yeah, I like how you got a little conspiratorial there. That when I compare this, for example, to India, where I grew up, it also has a small talk culture. The thing that I noticed, or at least I experienced differently about the US, is there's a script. We're all just sort of sticking to a script. I say my part, you say your part, and I find I don't quite have that script for like Indian small talk. I have that script memorized for most of the US small talk. I don't like it at either place, but at least I can navigate it much more successfully in the US because I've memorized the scripts.
Can you share that script with me? Because I need to improve on that. I'm actually insecure about small talks, so.
I mean, I'm sure you've experienced this back when we were still attending conferences. The first conversation when you go to a conference with any new person you meet. When did you arrive? Did you see anything interesting so far? Where are you staying? Like, are you staying close by, or did you see anything? Like, are you going to be extending your trip and staying around and watching other things?
Gotcha. Next time I keep that in mind. I'm usually relying on the other person to do the job, and I'm just answering questions.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Yejin, those were all the questions that I had. Do you think there's anything that we should talk about, or we should have talked about, to get a representative picture of you and your thoughts in your life?
Oh, I don't know, maybe not. This was more. I before beginning, I thought this is gonna be stressful. Now that I've done it, it's like, oh, fun. Yeah, I look forward to seeing what comes out of it.
I'm glad you liked it. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah. Also good to see you.
Yeah.
Even if virtually.
Yeah, and I hope we get to see each other in person in that fall prediction that you've made. I hope it comes true and we get to meet.
Oh yeah, Yemen OP. Come to Yemen OP. I think it's going to be in some resort island.
Oh, that's
Dominican
nice.
Republic.
In person?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll keep an eye out for that.
But yeah, they're planning on it, so should be fun. Beaches and
I think you're selling this very well.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good place to stop. Thank you, Yejin.
Bye.
Bye.